Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Before we do a recap and get started, are there any questions or comments from yesterday? I know there was a lot of information put out there from a lot of people yesterday, and so if there are any questions or comments about that, we can go ahead and address those now. Talk about them now. If anybody's got a question or thoughts from yesterday, please go ahead.
ST, this is Linda. I was listening yesterday, and Barbara was talking about waking up at night at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I too I do that a lot. And at first, I was thinking that since I had to get up every morning when I worked, that was it. But after I stopped working, I would still wake up every morning, and I still do now. Wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was doing some research, and it was saying that 3 o'clock is a divine hour, and between 3 and 4 o'clock, that is like a holy hour. That I don't know. It didn't make any sense. It was saying like your angels talk to you at that time, and I knew that it was something spiritual, but I knew it wasn't that. So, is it? Can you elaborate on that for me?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. George brought up a specific time yesterday too. And what I was trying to do yesterday was just kind of give us an idea of how much intuition and how much we're actually sort of functioning in the eighth sense without really knowing. And one of the things that that comes up when you start talking about your intuition is that you notice a certain time of day, or that you're having a pattern that's developing, or a given point in time. Like if I'm looking at the clock and it's always 11:11, that's a clear indication that you're actually in the intuitive state. And these are some of the things that we sort of miss, or that we can now going forward you can look at and sort of validating the fact that you are in that state, and that we do operate. And it's just, we were talking that there's not a lot of things that are really coincidence when we start seeing things that happen. And it also reflects us being in the right place at the right time. And we were just saying yesterday, from that standpoint, going forward, really embrace that, because it is, a clear indicator that you're definitely in an intuitive state, and there's more to it for each individual. There's a certain spiritual awareness that's taking place, or something that's being, sort of nurtured in us, or its purpose. It's not just a coincidence. And so once we sort of figure out, what that is for each person, and we start noticing it and try to embrace it and really figure out, okay, what does that mean for me as an individual, and is it a certain time of day? Of course, we've looked at some numbers, and certain things have spiritual connotations and how they add up. But really, just when you see that now, it's not a coincidence, and we should pay a little more attention to it, because there is a spiritual awareness that's pulling us in, and it's not a coincidence. So that's where we're kind of talking about yesterday. And then we had a couple of examples of different times, and George gave an example of the 11:11 and the divinity around that. But in the main takeaway that I wanted to give was that let's not sort of ignore it, but let's embrace it now going forward, because there is a certain amount of guidance that comes out of that to you, and there's a spiritual awareness. And it could be that during a particular time of day where you say you're getting at that time of night, that may be your time that you're closest to your desires, and you're in your meditative state, and it just may reflect of something that's going on with you spiritually at that point in time too. That, so I hope that helps or answers it a little bit. And if anyone else, please chime in, because we spent a lot of time on that yesterday too. Hello. Oh, hello.
I'm still on here.
Okay.
Here, here.
Here.
Still
All
here.
right. Yeah, I
The,
don't know. So,
the,
but anyway, there's some revelation knowledge that's there attached to it too, Linda, and I don't know if there's a certain thought on your mind when you get up at that time period. Um, I know there's a couple of times that always stand out to me, and usually I'm either in the car or I do get up, and I know it's not time to actually start my day where I get on the way for work, but there's also a time around 3:34, somewhere around it. I notice on the clock sometimes in the morning, and I'll usually just try to go back to sleep. And now I'm trying to be more conscious of, okay, maybe that's the time for me to get up and really just to meditate to see if I can align myself to. And one of the other things we talked about is like normally, typically when that happens, your physical body is in a very relaxed state. That it's your body should seem relaxed and things should begin to flow. But there is some sort of revelation that's there for us and the spiritual awareness that we should just sort of take a deeper dive into.
well, if the sages say that to wake up at 3 a.m. Means that you're about to have an encounter with your Creator, and that things are about to be revealed to you. And so pay attention. And it's pretty much the same thing at 4 a.m. The sages say that to wake up at 4 a.m. Speaks to the idea of the Creator bringing forth in your life, or I'm sorry, responding in your life to those things that you have approached Him with, and you are to at that point hold on to what you know the truth to be, because He is your protector in all things.
And that's funny, we fight so hard to go back to sleep. and
So,
but that's what I'm saying. Like we need to, really embrace it now, because this whole idea of intuition and being intuitive, you're at a state of being anyway. Like like we try to restrict things and kind of like to shape and structure it. But I'm not saying that you don't have a care in the world, but really the mindset should be that way, that because you're in that state of protection. We talked about yesterday, you're in a state of just, you're safe and secure. So there really shouldn't be a care in the world, and that focus should be to lock in on that time and period. Like you said, if like you said, with the sages are saying that we're at the closest point of to the Creator, that should be a time that, okay, nothing else should matter. And we're like, me, I'm fighting to, okay, I'm going to go back to sleep, or I'm going to try and, cut the light or whatever it is, instead of treating it as a distraction, I'm moving forward. I'm going to embrace that and really just kind of block out any kind of noise and see what the message is, see what's being revealed. But definitely, I know in the past, and just being honest.
may I speak to that?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, for me individually in the past, there's been times where I noticed a time like that, or even like actually getting up, I'm treating it as a mistake, and I'm trying to fight to go back to sleep or whatever, instead of really embracing it. And so now, I really see myself going forward, embracing that and doing whatever it takes for me to center myself and lock in to be able to receive, instead of just fighting it, trying to go back to sleep.
The revelation, the word dream in the Hebrew speaks to revelation, or to uncover something. I think that what we have thought is that if it means that something is being revealed to me, then I should see it. However, that's not necessarily true. There are things that are revealed to us, but we don't see them, or we don't articulate them until weeks later. We're not even aware it's there at that moment, or we know something happened, but we don't know what. There have been times when you have wondered what something means, and when you're least thinking about it, that's when the meaning or the understanding of it comes to you. That's how revelation works also. We just because you wake up at 3 and something is being revealed to you, it doesn't mean that you're going to see it at 3 o'clock that morning. You might not see it until you begin to console somebody 2 days later or a month later. And you ask yourself, where did that come from? Well, that is the seed that was put in you during that period. And all of us at some point have said things, or things have flowed from our lips that were profound in that they spoke to the moment with a great clarity. And it resonated deeply, and we knew that it came from the depth of our soul. That was there prior to the conversation you had or the circumstance you faced. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm trying to say?
No, it does. It does completely. And what you were saying and speaking, I also was thinking about we've created the most space for us to receive at that point in time too. Like you've sort of emptied out, and in that given time and period, it'll be just a time that we've actually created for ourselves subconsciously anyway to receive by creating that space that we talked about yesterday, and having all the things that would normally distract us or bog us down sort of removed, and we're at a state of complete readiness to receive or be deposited into, or sort of a deposit that doesn't necessarily have to be counted then, but it's deposited in us, and so we're able to receive it then.
Also with Revelation, if there's no space there, there's no space to reveal anything to you. If we are talking about purging ourselves of these distractions, primarily religious distractions, secondarily, the distractions in our environment, such as the things that are taking place in government and the things that are taking place on our jobs or whatever. If we don't purge ourselves of those religious, the religious polity that we have been filled with, there's no room for anything to be revealed to us. And the more that we are purged, the more space there is for us to receive an understanding or an awareness of how we were fearfully and wonderfully made. But in addition to that, it also grants us the opportunity to be balanced. And again, balance does not deal with religion at all. Balance speaks to being righteous or unrighteous, knowing how to balance your righteousness with those unrighteous things around you, as opposed to becoming or responding to them in an unrighteous manner, and judging people by their actions, and at the same time, without saying it, denying the divinity that's in them by the way we speak to them or the way we act in relationship to how they present themselves to us. Any questions or comments about that? Because I felt like that was a little bit rambling.
Going back to that, we mentioned it yesterday. Can the spiritual healing or the emotional healing take place then too? during that period of time?
Yes, yes. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things that the 4 o'clock hour allude to. The Creator responding to your desires is primarily what it was saying, and that is a period of healing. There is no way that we can have a true desire to become aware of the essence of how we were created and for what purpose without having the need for healing, because all of us have been damaged by the religious policies principles that we were taught all of our lives. All of us have been damaged by an environment of unrighteousness. And once we are able to be healed from the pain or be healed from the scars of the religious policy and principles that we have, which you mute your phone, please. Once we're able to be healed from that, then it is not so difficult for us to receive our healing from those scars, those wounds that we received from attitudes of white supremacists, attitudes of government in relationship to us. And that's when we say that we do not respond to white supremacy or to racism the way we once did. The reason we are able to say that and be telling the truth when we say it is because a healing has taken place. The pain that brought to us has been healed. And that is the reason we can hear it, we can see it, and we can keep our lives moving in the direction of positivity for the benefit of humanity, as opposed to being distracted by it and getting hurt all over again. Does that make sense?
No, it does exactly. And when you when you were talking, I can remember every year now we go through these meetings, and when they ask you, what do you know, like they talk about concerns, and for some reason the last couple of times that my turn comes around, they ask you what's going to keep you up at night, and I know the last 2 times that I've answered, I just said nothing really, because I'm not going to worry about it. But when you were saying it, I thought about that answer, but then I also thought about when you do have issues sleeping, like stress and the worrying and the things of external things that put the pressure and stress on us. That's when it also is important to remember who we are, so that we don't carry those things to sleep with us. And when you're sleeping, that healing is taking place, to where, like, the energy and spiritually, those things that would stress you are being taken care of by the simple fact that you are sleeping, that you are resting. And for someone to get up at 3:30 in the morning and not have those things on their mind means that they were taken away until that space is created there. And I was just giving that as an example of what you just kind of recapped or talked about.
Yes. When you say that, I when I wake up at 3 in the morning, I used to worry about, I'm gonna be so sleepy at work, I'm not gonna be able to function, and I would have the best day. I wouldn't be tired, I wouldn't be sleepy or anything, and so you would know it have to have a spiritual connection, because you would be if you were laying there worried about not being able to sleep because you were going to be sleepy, that morning. But it doesn't work like that. It's just like because I guess our body, that's the only time that we have, shut down. We are relaxed. Our mind is clear, and that's what I'm thinking, is because you're so relaxed and your body is shut down. You don't have all these thoughts running through your head and everything. Does that make sense to you?
No, absolutely. because when Kathy mentioned, we talked about, we're talking about the 5 minute of meditation, and it's not necessarily that's restricting you for the rest of the day. We're centering ourselves for that period of time, but then we're also going throughout the day because our desires and everything have lined up and they have been aligned, and we're allowed to like carry that guidance through the rest of the day. And I had wrote something down the other day about just dreams are powerful, and they're one of the highest forms of intuition because they also bring us guidance and healing while we're sleeping, and they kind of awaken a spiritual awareness inside of us. So no, I definitely I think you're right with that, because those things will also relax the physical body, because and when I used to answer the question, what keeps you up at night? And I'm like, okay, well, if this happens, that happens. And when I got away from that, thinking of, okay, well, that's not going to keep me up at night, because, it is going to be what it's supposed to be, and I'm not going to, like, stress about that. And just that part kind of, like you said, gives you the room to be filled up by the revelation or the deposit. And, like, you don't necessarily see it. Like I said this several months ago, I didn't really see it then, but I just knew I had to change my attitude about thinking about that, because I'm not going to take work home. I'm not going to worry about it while I'm home, and I'm not going to worry about what could go wrong, and just focus on what's going right. And that was just my attitude then, because it's just source of, we say, positive thinking. But reality is, it also allows me to calm my mind and make space for what I really need to be focused on. And that's always like bringing it back to, okay, being just a better me as an individual, and understanding who I am, and increasing that. And so that everything else will kind of fall in line and align with just that. So yeah, I know, I definitely understand that.
Yes, this is Jackie, and just to piggyback on what's been said, a few months ago, I was stressed. I talked to Pastor Linda and Kathy, and it's almost like I was scared to go to sleep because I was afraid I wasn't going to go to sleep because I had so much on my mind, and I was stressed with just different things. And then my husband told me, he said, babe, he said, that starts with you. You're going to have to go within yourself. And then I talked to Pastor again and Kathy, and then it's like I had an aha moment. And that's when, and you mentioned attitude. And that's when things started to change and to get better for me. So now I wake up sometimes at 2 a.m. For a long time I did that, even when I was stressed. And now that the stress, has subsided, it's being controlled, I can control it. I wake up at 2, but I'm not worried about going back to sleep, because I tell, oh, you going back to sleep. I'm going back to sleep. And I do, but sometimes when I wake up, I may have somebody on my mind. I may wake up with somebody on my mind, and what I'll do is I'll get up and I'll breathe, and then I'll call out their name to the Creator, because I don't count it as a coincidence that their name crossed my mind. So I'll just call out their name. I say, okay, God, you know their need. And sometimes I'll say it's not a coincidence that their name came across my mind. And then sometimes I'll think about it later on when I get up and I'm getting dressed and I'm stirring around. I'll say, that was strange. But then I'll just kind of like erase it, and I'll say, okay, God, you know why why they crossed my mind. You know their need, and then I'll just go about my day. But for a while, and it is all about attitude. And then I think about what Pastor said about power to dominate in the earth, So I had to make that connection and then make some changes too. And I remember him also saying, because I'll sometimes wake up and I'll pray for the hearts of men to change. And I've heard pastors say once their hearts change, their thoughts and their speech will change. And that includes me, because I can feel myself sometimes about to say something. And I'll be like, mm-mm. And I'll change the way I say it, or I won't even say it. And so it is all about attitude. I just want to add that. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. One of the things that also came up yesterday was, we talked about interacting with people that maybe have a negative impact on us, and always seeing the good in them, because basically we have to see that part of them and see that connection with us, and nothing else matters if we can truly help somebody become aware of who they are, that they're truly Elohim. If you get someone to that state, that even if their curiosity about it, that we pique their curiosity about it, and to where they start dealing with themselves in that manner from an internal perspective, if we can even get someone to that point, then we've done all we really need to do for them. Because seeing the good in the person that's standing across from you trying to bring evil or trying to bring chaos, seeing the good in them and reflecting that energy to them, it ultimately validates the connection we have as humanity, and that we are connected to each other. And so just helping someone become more aware of who they are, it will also spark in them that desire to go on that journey to discover more and to really understand more, to get their own body in tune with their spirit, because it is a balance, and it is something that we constantly do within our own self. But once we get people aware to that status of, okay, this is who I am, then it actually helps them on their journey as well, and all the other things that we would need to pray for or bring before. It becomes a lot easier, because they start understanding, I am Elohim, and I am, and they start progressing and understand the things that are there for them. They start seeing the clues. They start seeing the things aren't a coincidence and the patterns that happen, and they just start being, more aligned and less dysfunctional. And so that's really how I try to view everyone now. As we said it before, that everyone has, sparks of the Creator in them, has the Creator in them, and we just have to recognize that and see that, because they are us, and it just makes more sense to me now that I hear that. And so just understanding that connection, and then understanding who we all are, as well as our connection by humanity, it just makes it so much, it just makes more sense now. It's just so much more clarity in there. And once things are clear to us, it becomes less likely that we're going to be deceived or thrown off by any sort of propaganda or fake philosophy. And so that clarity is what we're definitely pursuing. Any other thoughts or questions on that, or what Jackie said to you?
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Pastor.
No, go ahead. I'll ask it in a moment.
I just wanted to speak to something Jackie said when she said about dominating. It clicked for me, and I wanted to share something. And thinking about everything that you said about how our journeys will intersect with people in at different times in life, and give them that opportunity to see who they are and to be better than what they've been when they've been coming from a place of not being human and just doing things from an animalistic nature. And I was thinking, this has happened to me twice in my adult life. I've had two, what I would call, encounters with people who have really done some really bad things, and bad by the sense of underhanded things that shouldn't have been done to anyone. And they did it to me, and they were okay with it. The first time it happened, I was having panic attacks. I was so upset by everything that had happened. I couldn't sleep. It took me months to get over it. In comparison to the last thing that happened, the first thing now, as I look at it, it was not nearly as bad. But I'm thinking about my response and how I'm responding differently now. And people keep telling me, I can't believe you're being as calm about this as you're being. And it had to hit me. I had to sit with it. Like you all hear me say this all the time. I sit with things, I mull it over, I think about it. And like I realized, my first thoughts were, I'm not as upset by this as I was by the first thing. I'm not losing any more sleep about it. I was in the beginning,
But the more you all teach, and the more we talk, or the more we teach, or the more we talk about these things, the more I internalize what's being taught. And even I was talking to Pastor about it recently, and he said I would not have responded the way you did. And I find it amazing that you are responding the way you are. And I told him, I said, this is what I keep hearing every time I get ready to do something, because a lot of different avenues have been laid out for me in different ways that I can handle the situation. And what I keep hearing is, vengeance is mine, and I shall repay, says the Lord. And while sitting with this thing, the first question that I heard was, who is the Lord that will repay? And I realized it's me. Then my next question became, if I do anything, what is my motive? Where am I coming from? Why would I do anything to bring this person to justice, so to speak? And it has taken me a while to recognize, if I do it from a vengeful place where he deserves this, he did this to me, I should do this back to him, then I am not dominating in the way I'm supposed to dominate. And so what I'm beginning to realize is, if I move on anything, why would I move on anything? And then it would be about protecting other people so that they would not have to go through the same journey that I've been through. I can wrap my mind around that, but I cannot wrap my mind around getting even with this person because he did a quote unquote bad thing to me. So when we talk about dominating looks differently to me now than it did in the beginning. And I know it's always meant to me not crushing someone, but it means to remain in a place of balance and be what I'm supposed to be, so that hopefully while our journeys are intersecting, or even when they no longer intersect, but you think back to conversations, because in this scenario, I gave this individual, we had heart-to-heart talks, gave him every opportunity rather to be someone different than he was presenting himself to be, because I knew he was lying. And I told him I knew he was lying, and he held on to the lie. So my point is, when we begin to talk about dominating, is you can't dominate without recognizing your motives and what your agenda is. And if we are to bring balance, peace, harmony, and to be loving kindness, we have to, even in the midst of something that we call, or that we frame something bad that happened to me, or something that I didn't expect to happen to me, we still have to stay in a place of balance and be where we are. That's when we really learn how to dominate, and dominate from a place of being I am, dominate from being Elohim, because we don't go after people. The only thing we want is to bring about a change for them. And that may look differently than I would have thought it looked in the beginning. I know the change is going to come for this individual, because everyone who knew what I was going through said, it had to happen to you. It had to happen to you because you would do the right thing to help this man become someone different than the man that he is right now. Did I want this to happen to me? Absolutely not. I'd rather for it not to happen to anyone. But now I recognize it is my place to really pick this thing up and be who I am, and see it all the way through the end, to the end, so that someone else won't have to go through it. So it just hit me when Jackie said that, taking everything to heart that we teach and that we're learning really does. Jackie gave the example of it settling everything on the inside of her, and showing her actually what she didn't say. It showed her the strength and power that was in her all the time that she just didn't see, but she sees it now very clearly. I know she does, because I've spoken with her since then. But this thing about dominating, I didn't want us to miss what that looks like, because I think as we grow, so these terms that we have thought we understood so clearly begin to change and have more meaning for us, and shows us really who we are and how we are to do these, how we are to just live life and be who we are. And I just wanted to share that with you, so thank you.
Excuse me. Before I ask the question, I want to piggyback on the idea of dominating. The situation, circumstance that you described, it, how are the circumstances rather that you described that was brought to you, and dominating it doesn't mean dominating an individual, as you said. Dominating speaks to dominating the earth, meaning that we dominate the animalistic attitude of the earth so that so so that so that it will be a place of righteousness. The question I want to raise is this: Do is it possible to have a negative impact on our Creator? Think about that. And if it's possible to have a negative impact on the Creator, what does that look like? If it's not possible to have a negative impact on the Creator, then it's not possible for anyone to have a negative impact on us if we are indeed the image and likeness of our Creator. Are there any questions about that? Comment? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I would go with the latter that you just said, based on I can't tell you that you're Elohim and make you believe it. I can tell you that you're Elohim, and when you see that, I can validate that for you. I can't make you function, but I can.
And I'm not even talking about that part. When I'm talking about this, when we talk about someone having a negative impact on us, if we know that we are Elohim, then we are speaking of an impossibility.
Correct.
If it's impossible to have a negative impact on Elohim, who created us in His image and likeness, then it is impossible for anyone to have a negative impact on us. If Kathy had dealt with the situation the way that I probably would have, going through the governmental agencies and all that, if she had done it that way, then she would allow the impact to be negative. However, because she sat with it and dealt with it on the basis of righteousness, what she did was deflect what could have been a negative impact, and in turn brought into this brought to the circumstance positivity, brought to this circumstance a understanding of not only what righteousness is, but who she is as well. My phone keeps going to mute. I'm sorry, but does that make sense?
Yes, she was.
It does.
She was who she needed to be at that right time, and she was at the right place at the right time to be who she was supposed to be.
But as we are supposed to be, not at that time, but all the time.
Right.
What I heard was the first time that this happened, I knew who I was, but I didn't know who I was. I knew that I was Elohim, but I wasn't at the point of a state, rather, where I truly understood the nature of that or embraced the nature of it. But the next time it happened to me, because of what I have taught and learned, I saw very clearly what it means to be Elohim. So when these circumstances come into our lives, they are designed to sharpen our vision. They are to show us how clearly we see who we are. These things are designed to make sure that we hold fast to the reality of being Elohim. It's not that we go be Elohim this minute and not the next minute. We are Elohim every day, every minute, every second. And our lives must be lived that way in order for us to respond, not react, but to respond the way that Kathy has responded, because the reaction would have brought something totally different. Thank you. And sorry, I hope, Kathy, that I depicted what you were saying in the right way.
You did, because it's definitely a work in progress. I'm not saying by any means that I have arrived, but I marvel at what I felt the first time. It's almost like I'm an entirely different person this time. It hit me the second time, but I didn't stay there long. I didn't stay there for months and months, not being able to sleep and not being able to think, not being able to even breathe, not being able to meditate, feeling like I'm about to have a panic attack. It didn't happen that way this time, even though this is a much larger deal than the first thing. And I'm still processing, because I still find myself saying, how could people do this to other people? What kind of individual does that? Who are you? How can you not see how wrong these things are? Or do you see and you don't care? And even when I find myself mulling those things over, I have to just stop. That's not what this journey is about. It is not about trying to figure out that behavior. It is trying to transform. It is about transforming that behavior. And I don't need to understand it to push in the energy that is needed to change the situation. And like I said, our paths shouldn't intersect anymore. I don't think they will. I really don't. But I still want what was given to him from the time that we spent together, that energy, that insight, to come back to him at some point to help him wake up and realize who he is, and not want to be the person, the shyster that he's been all of his life. He has an opportunity to change, and I don't want him to miss this. And when we put it in the atmosphere, in the universe, whatever it takes to bring about this change, for you to be your higher self, and for him, I mean, be human, be his higher self as human instead of being animalistic. That is my prayer for him when he crosses my mind now. But I still can't let that make me lose faith in humanity, and that people are intrinsically good people, because I keep encountering people who are not. And I use those terms loosely, because I know it is about how we frame what we go through. And I don't like saying something bad happened or something good happened, an experience happened. Let me frame it that way. And my takeaway is, I am not going to let it be a bad experience. And I think that's what the scripture meant when it says something that was meant for my bad, God worked it to my good. Well, I'm the God that's got to turn that thing around and make it good for me. Because if I stay in the mindset that this is a bad thing, then I am going to create other opportunities for more bad things to happen. But that goes back to the question you're asking, Pastor. If I don't see it as bad, then can the bad thing really happen? It's the way I'm hearing what you said, and I hope I am saying what you just said, because it makes sense to me, the question that you asked and the way you explained it just now. But that's all I wanted to say, and thank you.
I want to go back, and this is sort of a validation to just you share that, Kathy, and I appreciate it, and just how things are working for us right now. And I know we talked last weekend too about we just need to be, because this, like Rev said, this is who we are, and so much is happening that we're talking about, but now it's just things are just happening and we're doing like it's happening. And I don't know if Craig is on the phone, but I sort of had a revelation with this just a couple of days ago, and Craig was doing something for Rev. He was doing something with the car, and I told him, well, don't worry about it. But he said no. Craig insisted he was going to come and help me, and I knew his knee. So he was going to help me load some stuff. I had this U-Haul, but when Craig was helping me, he was really in turn helping a guy that I had been working with, who is just, I'm doing my best from an energy standpoint, because if I I try to do something for you, I'm going to try and do it for you like I'm going to do it for myself. And this is how I've always treated this guy. And he's had a lot happen to him with, some tragedy in his family and everything. And it just kind of made me just, no matter what the cost is for me, I'm just going to help this guy. It's just on my heart to help him. So anyway, Craig was going back and forth to Greenville, and when he told me that he had to wait on the car being serviced the other day, I was like, well, man, don't worry about it. But he said, no, he's going to come. And then we ended up being an hour late, but Craig was still there. He said, hey, man, I'm here at the house, and when y'all get there. And I told Craig at that mess, well, man, I'm a little frustrated because, I thought we were just going to get like one box of this stuff so that we could put it there. But the guy just insisted that he wanted to just get it all there. And that's just how they are. It's just like, so I try not to make it into a negative. So anyway, when we got there, it was a lot of stuff to unload. And so I introduced him to Craig. Craig said, hey, I'm from Union. And he said, oh, God, I got a negative taste in my mouth about Union. But I was like, this is my friend Craig. So anyway, he just kind of said that. Well, just long story short, Craig never met this guy before, but he knew the sister that this guy had lost. And Craig knew all of the details. And so after we unloaded all the stuff, we sat there for another 30, 40 minutes just talking. And there was a subject with this guy that I always wanted to avoid because I just didn't know how he felt emotionally, about losing his sister and stuff. But he began to tell Craig everything that had happened and how he actually wanted to take somebody else's life just about this stuff. And so just the fact that Craig was there at that point in time and knew some of the background, it was actually almost like therapy. He was able to talk to this guy and help him. And all he wanted to do was just unload his emotion. And he just talked to us about how he felt. And just, I never really wanted to open that box up with him, but he just poured his heart out to me and Craig right there. And he says, man, I need to just get all that anger out. And he said, just these couple months that we've been dealing with each other and just helping him, he just said something out there. He says, man, and I just feel like, I didn't want to let myself go. He said, you know what, I just thought to myself, he said, he used the word pray, and he said, you know what, I'm going to be a better me. And he said, even with the death, he says, I'm just going to let the universe handle it. He says, I'm going to just put out just positive energy in whatever the universe tells me. He said, that's what I'm going to do. And that's what he said to me and Craig at that point in time. I was like, wow. It was just validation. And I wasn't going to ever bring this up, but you just, for some reason, Catherine, you brought that up. I just wanted to say it. But it was just validation for me that, how we come in contact with people and how we're just there for people sometimes is just to bring positive energy or reflection. But when he said that, I'm like, man, I wasn't expecting him to say that, but that's how he felt. And for whatever reason, Craig had to be there at that point in time. And it wasn't a coincidence because that saying, I knew, it's from Union, it just opened up the door for this guy to really communicate and let all this out. And I left there that day feeling a lot better because I said, well, you know what, we came here to do one thing, but this is actually going to help this guy heal because he needed to heal from all the stuff that had been going on in his life. And just in a roundabout way, Craig was supposed to be there that day with me so that we could both just kind of just be there and absorb it. And then, like I said, out the blue, the last thing he said is like, you know what, I'm good with it now. The universe is just going to take care of it. And so I just wanted to share that, Kathy, on the heels of what you said. Because sometimes we do need that validation and just to rest assured, you know what, just be who we are supposed to be, and we can let the outside frustrations, weigh us down. But just sometimes, like I said, I'm trying to live it and be it and let things just go and just be who I'm supposed to be. And so at the end of the day, when it's time, we can validate it with that individual but the fact that you just were who you were is going to be fine. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Esther. I appreciate that, and I received that.
And really, I just really wanted to go back on that and just let you guys know this it's just more than what we're just talking about. And this intuition and letting things go, there'll be a point in time where things validate, and that connection is there. I mean, it's really and truly there. And I hadn't even told Craig that because I wasn't even going to tell him the guy's story, but Craig knew it, and he knew every detail. He knew more details than that guy knew, and knows some of the stuff Craig said helped bring some closure to what he was feeling. And so just go back to what we said in the beginning, that we see things before they can happen. We see good in people. And just none of this stuff is ever a coincidence. And these patterns begin to form because at the end of the day, go back to the lesson that you taught months and months ago, Kathy, about the law of attraction. At the end of the day, we go through and we bring balance, we bring guidance to people, and we bring healing and a spiritual awareness of who they are. And sometimes you do it without words. You just do it with just being who we are and just being that reflection, the mirror that you always talked about as well. And at some point, those things just kind of sink in, and it kind of like starts that breadcrumb trail to this gentleman who he's going to have to go back and to his core. And it just, so all these things become triggers. So, but thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments too on that? Yeah, you were breaking up. So, go ahead.
Somebody just getting ready to say something?
Yes, I thought somebody was getting ready to say something.
If it was, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I want to look at where we are, and the reason I say that is because I think it's very important for us to understand something at this juncture. We are no longer teaching rather to understand what the scriptures are actually saying to us. At this juncture, we are actually beginning to understand the personality, for lack of a better term, of Elohim. We're beginning to understand the responsibilities that comes with being Elohim. We're beginning to understand not just the substance with which we were made, but we're beginning to understand how to function with that substance so that others can benefit from it. So right now, it is no coincidence, as you said, that these circumstances happen with Kathy, the things that you described with Craig, and there are so many other circumstances that are taking place. There's no coincidence that any of us have had to go through what we've gone through and is going through now. Why? Because in order for us to be strengthened, then we are going to have to go through some things. The other thing is that when you spoke concerning, I was thinking about someone and they texting us or calling on the heels of our thoughts. That resonated deeply, and yesterday I had that experience. One of my cousins whom I never met, I've been in communication with her, and I was thinking about, I had not spoken with her in a while, And when I got back to the hospital, I had a text from her. And something dawned on me. When we see the change in the hearts of men abruptly, it's going to come because we have totally embraced that we are one, that they are us and we are them. What I'm saying is this: we are going to speak to their hearts without saying a word to them, and that happens through our thoughts in the same way that our thoughts attract someone or move someone to send us a text or make a phone call simply because we thought about them or mentioned them. If that is the case, and I do believe with everything in me it is true, then that is the way that we are destined to bring a change to this earth. We cannot depend on our Creator to do it because our Creator is dependent on us to do it. Our Creator, if our Creator was going to do it, it would have been done from the beginning. However, it is our responsibility. Now, our Creator will guide us along the pathway, but as far as bringing that change, we have to do it. And this eighth sense, this idea of knowing we're one, this concept of being able to speak to every heart on earth at one time, is a concept that we not only should probably explore some more, but embrace it even if we don't understand it. Because that's how we will change the hearts of men. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Hey,
I mean, go ahead.
yes, this Ron. Um, wasn't sure if I want to follow that, but something I want to hold on a minute, trying to find it here. Something I want to share with you that I've been looking at for the last couple of weeks, and I think it ties in here. I want to read something. I'm in Genesis chapter 2. Uh, I'm gonna read verse 19 and 20. Okay, and for a minute. It says, out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every bird of the sky and brought them to the man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called a living creature, that was his name. So I listened to what Kathy said and your explanation with the young man and Craig. The thing I see in this statement here is we are not only responsible for our feelings and emotions, but we are the ones who named them. We are the ones who set the character of them. So if if you are the one who defined this, you can redefine it, you can change it. And, it's easier to say, and I'm talking to me, we get overpowered, overwhelmed. You're overwhelmed by something that a characteristic of yourself that you defined, and it overtakes you. And but it's yours. But here's the other side of it. Other side of it is the man. The man gave names to all the cattle and the birds of the sky and every beast of the field. But Adam, there was not found for him a suitable helper. In other words, that is the lower side of you, and this is telling us how to be human. Uh, there is another side of you that can that's a level above these characteristics that you set. That and the only way you're going to change those characteristics, the only way that you're going to overcome this or live above this is to be the human. And in just setting the characteristics, Adam did not understand fully who and what he was. And that part, the adding of the suitable helper is what gave him that the word I'm looking for? His the knowledge of his spiritual essence, to see that he can overpower. And I just looked at that when we started talking about dominate, because it almost, we think about dominate, we think about something that's outside of us, or something that we're not don't have control over. But this is saying, this is something that, if you see yourself as the atom, that you set the characteristics for. So the dominating is looking at that and seeing that if I become the human, the higher me, for lack of a better term, has dominance over this, and I can overcome anything. I have no limits. I can overcome anything. So I just thought that kind of tied in looking at this, because this is just something I continue to look at until I get full understanding of it, I suppose. But anyway, I just wanted to add that.
Well, and I saw something else as you read, in addition to what you said. In order for the Adam to be able to overcome those attitudes that he described when those animals are brought before him, and that's why it's an animalistic attitude. That cannot happen without a suitable mate, without embracing rather the equal part of you, without bringing an understanding of the necessity of having a womb to birth the righteousness that's necessary in order for us to be able to overcome those types of attitudes. And those attitudes are very necessary, because without those attitudes, there is no such thing as balance. So that was given to us by our Creator for the purpose of us becoming creators. And one of the reasons it has been so difficult for us to embrace that and to be the creator that we were created to be is because we have walked away from, we have manipulated, we have looked down upon the suitable mate, the one who is given to us as an equal part. And I'm not talking about just a man. I'm talking about the energy that's necessary in order for us to be whole. Because without the masculine and feminine energy, there is no wholeness. And without the masculine and feminine energy, there is no Elohim. There is only animalistic attitudes walking around in a body calling itself human when it really isn't. I think that coincides with what you were saying, Ron.
Well, you tied it up, and that said it a lot better than what I was trying to say. Cause you're right. The word suitable is key there, and when you talked about the womb, and I like that. So yeah, it's just what I've been looking at that throughout this part of our lesson, and there's something there that ties into what we're saying, and I think you just brought it out. It just kind of explains everything. But thank you.
I have a question in terms of the word dominance. We're talking about that in the context of dominion over, or is there a difference between the two terms?
Dominion over.
Okay. Thank you.
But not in a violent way. It just, if you look at this from an internal perspective, look at what Kathy's doing and what she said about the man, to me is just magic. I mean, wisdom had to show that to her. I'm going to change this man's attitude based on who I am. So it's not, because I too would tell you I would probably handle it in a different way than she and Pastor would handle it. But initially, I would have had to see what she's seeing and grow into that position. But yeah, because the first thing I think about is dominate is I'm going to overpower you. I'm going to take this against your will. But this is a different type of thing to me. This is saying I'm going to show you something and take you to a place where you have a different appreciation for who you are, and your thoughts are changed. You start to recognize yourself as somebody totally different. You recognize that you're human, so that starts to change your thoughts, and you recognizing what you have done, and have a desire to change.
You have to have dominion over yourself first. If you have no dominion over the animalistic thoughts that you have, then nothing changes. And what in actuality, what Kathy talked about was having dominion over those animalistic attitudes. Because keep in mind when she's talking about vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Who was saying that? That's what she said she heard. Who was saying that? It wasn't the Creator saying that. It was her saying that. It was Elohim saying that to the animalistic attitude. Do not fall prey to that any longer. And what happened? That in itself gave her the strength to rise above where she had been with the first incident. And the first incident now becomes a reminder of what was, and the current incident becomes a reminder of what is. And as far as traveling the journey, we will be forever traveling the journey, because it will not be a time when we don't have to deal with the animalistic nature of earth consciousness. If that were the case, then that would not be a tree with leaves of healing in the garden. I mean, in the New Jerusalem, that place of righteousness. So we get better at it, and we get at it. We get to a place where we're able not only to do it for ourselves, but we're also able to have an outpouring so it can be available to mankind as a whole. Thanks.
Pastor, one thing I want to say on the heels of that, going back to what Kathy displayed, when we say, okay, help someone become aware of who they are, but in technical terms for that gentleman, when looking at it from the journey from his perspective, she's created a memory for him that when he does start to feel the spark of awareness of who he is, and he starts thinking back on his timeline, those are some of the things when he reflects on the encounter with Kathy and what she has shown him. Those are some of the things from his memory that will also help him along that journey as he starts to follow that breadcrumb back to the beginning and those incidents on how he was treated will actually help him when he starts recalling things, and those are examples and points of time that and that's how we affect each other as well when we say helping someone become aware, because when they start to recall as well, they do remember what Elohim looks like to them, even without actually understanding what Elohim is at that point in time.
Questions, comments?
Any questions about us?
I don't have anything else there.
No, the only thing I would say to wrap it up is just kind of everything's been kind of coming together here. It's just that self-discipline and awareness, and I'm just using Kathy for an example of just displaying that self-discipline and awareness, self-awareness. These are all things that we keep talking about that we are. And when it comes to problem solving, all these things are just validating who we are. And that's just an awesome example of what we've been talking about when it comes to going back to the earlier lesson when George talked about the emotional intelligence. We talked about having that self-discipline and awareness and understanding who we are and knowing what we should do versus not doing it, having the discipline to do what you should do, and giving into what you're being, told spiritually to do. So that's just illustrated all there. That's really all I can say is like that just kind of sums it up. But I think it's a good stopping point too. But I mean, it's just really a lot to think about. And going back to what you said earlier, I mean, we're at the point now where we're living it, we're being it, and just not talking about it, but we're actually here to embrace it. And I'll say this again, like just pay attention to the times and things that we think are reoccurring and the patterns, and they're not coincidences. Just really pay attention. I feel like it's going to be a lot of that this week, but just really embrace it, and hopefully we'll get some more deposited into us. But that's really all I have.
Yes, before
Thank
we
you,
go,
sir.
you're a pastor. Before we go, I just need clarity on something that I said. This is Jackie again, that I mentioned earlier when I said that I wake up at 2, and if someone crosses my mind, and I said that I call out their name to the Creator. We were created in His image. And is it a right way or wrong way, or because that's just what I do? I just speak their name. I just need clarity on that because, like you said, and we are created in His image. I need some clarity on that, please.
Jackie,
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
You're doing what you were taught to do, Jackie, the way you were taught to do it. It doesn't mean that you don't know who you are. It doesn't mean that, for example, when we talk about hearing God, we actually talk about hearing ourselves. That is an awareness that's within the created beings that we are. When you talk about calling out a name, what you're actually doing is combining the essence of your spirituality with the energy of that person, because that name that you call out is reflective of the energy of that person, and your desires for that particular person are being met, and that name would not be on your heart if it were not meant for you to combine the energy of Elohim with the energy of that person. Does that make sense to you, dear?
Oh yes, thank you. Yeah, you clarified it. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Please know this: there are no prescriptions. There's how to step 1, step 2, step 3. There are no steps. It's all about the intent of your heart. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I think it's amazing and beautiful to notice all the things that we see and go through, how connected we are and how connected events are. We talked about history, I think, when Kathy talked about the election of presidents and the stuff in Revelations. Everything we studied, it just showed connectedness. And I listened to, what S talked about and not coincidentally seemingly taking Craig there and how connected Craig was to the situation, and Kathy not realizing that 2 separate events happened in her life that seemed bad, but one prepared her for the next one, and not seeing that connection until, so it's just amazing. As I guess it's sort of, piggybacking on what S said, just stay tuned, just open your eyes and and just pay attention to what goes on, because this is some amazing stuff to me that where we are now. Thanks.
Thank you, too, for your.
If I can add one more thing before we close, and I know we still tape, we don't have to tape this, but if you guys know anybody that hasn't been able to log in the last couple of weeks, see if you can get in contact with them, and let's see if there's something in common that maybe they're doing, or some device that they might be using this, because Lamont wasn't able to get in, and he tried again and again. So I'm not sure what that is, and maybe we can get some names and numbers to Janice and maybe Sheldon, and see if they can help figure this out. Because
Well, I
like
merged them
everybody,
on.
you merged them in, okay?
Yeah, I merged them in. I'm gonna call them
Okay.
after this. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still on the call.
Okay. All right. Just something I was concerned with, if there are others out there that can having problems. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And it may be a good thing to repeat the number and the code, the passcode again too, since it's been updated. I know it's been a month, but that might be a good thing to do too.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, we have a good stopping point here, and I appreciate everyone tonight. Sometimes you never know how things are going to go, and but it all works out. And but I appreciate everybody for sharing and communicating, and just it just helps everything. It just kind of, like I said, I keep saying validate. It just kind of validates where we're at. And please, if there's something on your, that you feel like you want to say or ask, please don't hesitate. So, but I appreciate everybody for helping us get through tonight, and everything you brought forward for us to discuss. If there's nothing else, we'll reconvene this weekend, and everyone be safe and have a good week.
Thank you. Do the same, man.
You too. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye,
Ed.
everybody.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Everybody have a good night.
Good night.